You don't get the life you want by wishing. You don't earn wealth by copying tactics or faking confidence. You become rich, truly, deeply, and permanently rich when your identity demands it. Because the riches you want, the power you crave, the freedom you obsess over when you lie awake at night, they belong to a version of you that does not yet exist. And that's the part no one wants to say out loud. You can read the books, you can say the affirmations, you can follow the routines, but if your identity hasn't changed, your reality never will. Because money is not attracted to desire, it's attracted to alignment. Who are you being right now? Not on your best days, but when no one is watching, when the doubt creeps in, when the temptations whisper, when the old version of you claws at the door begging to take over again. This is where the real transformation begins. Not in behavior, in belief, not in surface changes. In cellular rewiring, you must become the man your goals belong to. And that man does not think like you. He does not speak like you. He does not move like you. He has died to who you are now and resurrected into someone unrecognizable. Carl Jung said, "We do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." Translation, the man you must become is not hiding in your fantasies, he's buried in your shadows. Your fears, your shame, your addictions, your broken agreements with yourself. Until you face them, not avoid, not numb, but face, you will remain broke. Not just financially, spiritually, mentally, energetically, because your current identity was built to survive, not to dominate. It was built to please, to cope, to remain accepted by a world that rewards safety over sovereignty. But sovereignty, true power, demands a funeral. You must bury the version of you who chooses comfort. You must kill the one who hesitates. You must silence the one who says, "I'm doing my best," when deep down you know you're not. You're managing, you're adapting, you're maintaining the identity of a man who hopes life gets easier instead of becoming the force that bends life into shape. Because you can't build an empire with a civilian identity. You can't become unstoppable with a belief system built on trauma and validation. You can't attract riches if your spirit still flinches at discipline. You must become someone new. Not pretend, not perform. Transform, and transformation is violent. It means you must stand in front of the mirror and ask, who am I without my wounds? Who am I without this fear? Who am I if I stop playing small? It means you stop identifying with your past and start writing your future from conviction, not conditioning. You are not your history. You are the habits you protect. And every habit is a vote for the man you're becoming. So if you want wealth, if you want impact, if you want peace, stop focusing on what to do. Focus on who you must be. Because the riches you want will not negotiate with the man you are today. They are already reserved for the version of you who refuses to break his own word, who moves in silence because he's too busy becoming legendary, who doesn't just say, "I want more," but burns the bridge to anything less. That version of you isn't found. He's forged in fire, in solitude, in standards so high that they make the old you gasp for air. And when you become him, not act, not pretend, but become, you don't have to chase riches. They find you because they recognize their rightful owner. They recognize the scent of discipline, the weight of certainty, the vibration of a man who has died to weakness and risen in sovereignty. A man who doesn't wait for abundance, he embodies it. A man who no longer negotiates with procrastination, with mediocrity, with the emotional volatility of a world still asleep. The riches you want aren't seduced by ambition. They're drawn to frequency. And your frequency isn't shaped by words, it's shaped by standards. What you allow, what you demand. what you refuse to tolerate, even in private, because the universe doesn't respond to what you post. It responds to what you practice. It doesn't reward who you pretend to be. It rewards who you become when it's hard to breathe, but you keep going anyway. You want to change your bank account? Change your self-concept. You want to earn like a king? Then stop thinking like a pawn. Stop shrinking. Stop softening. Stop letting the world convince you that smallness is noble. There is nothing noble about betraying your potential. There is nothing sacred about staying quiet while your soul starves. There is no dignity in dimming your light just to be tolerated by people who fear their own power. You must outgrow them, not in arrogance, in alignment, because your current identity is like an old skin. It fit once. It protected you, but now it suffocates you. And every time you delay shedding it, you delay your destiny. So stop tweaking the surface. Start rebuilding the system from the ground up, from the root out, your habits, your thoughts, your circle, your inputs, your rituals, your agreements with yourself. All of it rebuilt to serve a man who will no longer ask for permission to rise. And here's the brutal truth. You will lose people. You will grieve comfort. You will offend the version of you that needed to be liked more than he needed to be free. Let it all go. Because freedom doesn't come from keeping the peace. It comes from making war with anything in you that still whispers, maybe I'm not enough. It comes from beheading the voice that says, one day, and replacing it with day one. No, this is not motivation. This is metamorphosis. You don't become rich by doing rich things. You become rich by no longer being poor in identity, poor in focus, poor in discipline, poor in belief, poor in how you see yourself. Because the real poverty is not in your wallet. It's in your wiring. It's in the low ceiling you've learned to live beneath. It's in the loop you replay every day that says, this is just who I am. But it's not. It never was. It's who you settled for. And today that man dies. Because the riches you want don't just require effort. They require a resurrection of the part of you that remembers who you were before the world made you forget. So rise, not louder, but deeper, not with noise, but with nerve, and build the identity that wells cannot ignore. Build the identity that speaks in silence. That radiates value without needing validation. That moves rooms without lifting a finger. Because that man doesn't just want success. He is success. By design, by depth, by decision. The world isn't waiting for another man who's trying his best. The world is starving for the man who demands more from himself than it ever could. The man who no longer breaks his promises when no one is watching. The man who no longer negotiates with the weaker voices in his head. The man who doesn't flinch under pressure, he sharpens under it. That's who the riches are waiting for. The deals, the doors, the respect, the empire. They don't belong to the man who wants them. They belong to the man who's become inevitable. And you become inevitable the moment you stop looking for who to follow and start becoming the blueprint. You are not here to replicate. You are here to redefine yourself, your lineage, your future. But only if you are willing to let go of who you've been. Only if you are willing to shed the skin of safety and step naked into the fire of reinvention. Because everything you desire lives on the other side of a funeral, the funeral of your current identity. Are you willing to bury it? Are you willing to kill comfort with your own hands? Are you willing to walk alone long enough to become the man who commands crowds with his energy, not his ego? Because that man That man doesn't chase opportunity. He is the opportunity. That man doesn't hustle for scraps. He builds a table and chooses who eats at it. That man doesn't hope to be rich. He builds himself into a vault. And the world lines up to pay for access. So here it is, the final truth. The riches you want, the real ones, not the ones that glitter, but the ones that govern. They are waiting, not for your effort, not for your hustle, not for your vision board. They are waiting for a new identity. And now, the only question that matters, are you willing to become the man they're waiting for? Because until you are, every strategy you try will collapse under the weight of your old wiring. Every opportunity you touch will slip through your hands. Not because you weren't capable, but because you were still carrying the identity of a man who only believes in results but hasn't yet become the result. The man who waits for evidence will never lead. The man who needs proof before action will always follow. But the man who decides who he is before the world reflects it back. That man bends time. He collapses probability. He commands outcomes. Because he no longer plays by the rules of probability. He writes new laws by becoming someone the universe must obey. And here's what they won't tell you. It's not about learning more. It's not about trying harder. It's about dream-making yourself so completely that even your past wouldn't recognize you. So completely that wealth doesn't feel like a miracle. It feels like a match. A perfect mirror of the internal kingdom you built without applause. That's how you become a magnet. Not through manipulation, through mastery. Mastery over your time. Mastery over your thoughts. Mastery over your reactions. Mastery over your hunger. Because when your hunger is pure, not rooted in lack, but anchored in truth, you become undeniable. You become inevitable. And what was once far off, what once felt impossible, what once seemed like it belonged to them, now belongs to you. Because now you've done what most never will. You didn't just work harder. You rose higher. You didn't just chase a better life. You became a man worthy of it. You didn't just change your habits. You rebuilt your identity from the bones of your old self. And now the world begins to rearrange, not because it changed, but because you did. This is your line in the sand. This is the hour. You stop being someone with potential and start being someone with presence. Because the riches you want never belong to the man you were. They belong to the man who is born today. The man you decide to be, with no turning back, no soft landings, no compromises. Just a new identity, built in fire, forged in solitude, and crowned in silence. Now walk, because wealth already knows who you are. It's just been waiting for you to remember, because you were never meant to live at the surface. You were never meant to be another optimized algorithm of productivity. You were meant to descend into the root, into the dark, into the psyche itself, and from that depth rise as something undeniable. This is what Carl Jung meant when he spoke of individuation. The process by which a man stops living from the borrowed fragments of others and finally becomes whole. And wholeness is magnetic, not because it's perfect, but because it is real. It's not curated, it's not branded, it's not filtered. It is. The world doesn't need more performers. It needs presence. It needs men who've stared into their own abyss and walked out with fire in their hands. That's you once you stop clinging to the identity that keeps you predictable. Predictable to yourself. Predictable to your failures. Predictable to everyone who benefits from you staying exactly where you are. But unpredictability is the mark of evolution. When your moves become unreadable, when your rhythm no longer matches the mediocrity around you, when you disappear and return recoded. That's when they know something happened. That's when the world begins to pay you in ways you once thought were impossible. Because the universe doesn't compensate the man who is trying. It compensates the man who has become. And what does he become? He becomes the one who doesn't just dream. He executes. He becomes the one who doesn't collapse under weight. He builds muscle from it. He becomes the one who doesn't hide from responsibility. He demands it. And from that weight, that pressure, that calling, he carves out a new name. One that doesn't need to be spoken. One that is felt. You know that man. He's been whispering to you for years. He's the one watching from the corners of your mind while you scroll. He's the one aching in your chest when you settle. He's the one you glimpse in moments of clarity. The version of you who is beyond powerful, but waiting to be chosen. And now, the time for waiting is over. Because the riches you want are not hiding from you. They are being guarded by the version of yourself that has the spine to claim them. And that version, he doesn't beg. He doesn't panic. He doesn't envy. He doesn't play small. He walks with something ancient. He speaks like a man who has buried who he used to be. And he demands nothing because everything is drawn to him automatically. That's not magic. That's metaphysics. That's vibration. That's alignment. That's Jung's deepest truth. When you integrate your shadow, when you stop hiding from what you fear inside yourself, you become whole. And the whole man is terrifying to a world built on fragmented identity. He is not easily moved. He is not easily bought. He is not easily replaced. He is a mountain among sandcastles. And from now on, that is who you become. Not because it's trending, not because it's profitable, because it's the only way to truly live. Your old identity was never broken. It was incomplete. Now it is your duty to finish the construction, to choose every thought, to wield every emotion, to walk with every wound, not as a victim, but as a warrior with memory. Because the riches you want, the money, the impact, the deep peace, they are not afterthoughts. They're echoes, reflections of your internal empire. And that empire begins here, in this decision, in this moment, to no longer postpone your power, to no longer fear your future, to no longer carry the corpse of who you used to be. Let him go. You are not here to repeat. You are here to rebuild. And once you do, the world will come, not to reward you, but to align with the man you were always meant to be. And when the man you were meant to be fully arrives, he won't make announcements. He won't broadcast his return. He'll simply be, and the world will feel it. He will speak less, but when he does, his words will cut through noise like a blade through fog, because they don't come from opinion. They come from integration. This is the man who no longer asks, what do I need to do? He asks, who do I need to embody to make that question irrelevant? Because once you become the identity that creates, that leads, that earns, action becomes instinct. Discipline becomes default. Abundance becomes inevitable. This man doesn't just hold boundaries. He is the boundary, not from force, but from frequency. Low-value situations don't even approach him. They disqualify themselves. He walks into rooms differently, not with swagger, but with weight. The kind of weight that makes time slow down. The kind of weight that makes people wonder, what has he been through to move like that? He has seen death, not physical, but psychological. He has buried his lesser selves. He has sat in the fire of self-confrontation. He has endured the shattering silence where most men run. And he has risen not clean, but clear. This is what makes him rich. Not the bank account, but the spine. Not the brand, but the blood. Not the empire, but the essence. The world pays this man, not for what he does, but for who he is. Because who he is changes people. He is no longer trying to get rich. He is building royalty. Every decision is a brick. Every discipline is mortar. Every act of restraint, every refusal to fold, every early morning, where the weaker man stayed in bed. These are the cathedrals he constructs silently inside himself. And once those inner walls are high enough, once the architecture of his character is unshakable, the riches arrive like rain after drought, not to save him, but to serve him. Because now he doesn't just want wealth. He governs it. He doesn't just consume. He creates. He doesn't just ask for opportunity. He becomes the ecosystem where opportunity breeds. And the final piece, he no longer needs to prove anything. Because when you've rebuilt yourself brick by brutal brick, when you've bled in silence and risen without applause, you don't need recognition. You are recognition. The world begins to orbit around you, not because you took shortcuts, but because you became the axis. That is the identity that holds wealth. That is the truth they won't put on posters. That is the work no one can do for you. That is the you that must be forged. And once he arrives, everything you ever wanted begins to arrive with him. Not because you were lucky, because you were finally aligned, fully, boldly, permanently. And so now you stand not on a stage, not in front of a crowd, but in front of yourself. The war is quiet now, not because there are no more battles, but because you've become the weapon. You are no longer waiting for permission. You are no longer seeking to be saved. You are no longer negotiating with mediocrity, with your past, with your excuses. You are no longer who you were. And the world will feel it before it sees it. Before the money comes, before the empire stands, before the name echoes, because it always starts here, in the identity, in the soul, in the decision that you will never return to the man who tolerated less than what he was built for. The riches you want, they are no longer somewhere out there. They are here now, waiting for one final act, embodiment. So breathe, stand taller, not for show, but because it's finally time. Time to carry the weight, time to wear the crown, time to walk as if the universe has already answered, because it has. You became the man, the one they said didn't exist, the one you once doubted you could become, the one who no longer folds, the one who builds and never breaks, the man for whom wealth is no longer a dream, but a reflection. Now go, silently, boldly, completely. You've changed, and everything is about to change with you.